everyone, my name is Tiffany and this is my channel, Who's Your Handmade. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Today's video is stash update number 4. If that sounds interesting to you, stick around. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope that you will consider subscribing if you have not done so already. I would love to welcome you into the sewing community. Thank you so much to each one of my friends who are tuning in again today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend a little bit of it with me. It really does mean so very much to me, you guys. Thank you. Give this video a thumbs up. Those really do help, and leave a comment down below. Let me know if you're in the middle of a stash challenge to yourself. How you doing? How you holding up? I would love to chat with you down below in the comments section. Before we get started, I want to talk about what I'm wearing. So we are in the middle of Me Made May here, and I am reaching to the back of my closet for some Me Made things that I made a really long time ago. This shirt is McCalls 7322. I'm going to pop a picture of the pattern there. This one was a fun one. It was like one of my first knit garments that I ever sewn. It really sewed up really well. This is like a blushy pink colored knit, and then this is a different knit here for the sleeves and neckband. Both of these I think were just remnants from Joann's that I had picked up a long time ago. I made this in September of 2021. So the only thing that I wrote down in my handy dandy sewing journal, which I will link down below, there's my entry for this shirt. I wrote down that this neckband was really confusing. I actually put it on backwards twice. Now, I was a brand new sewist. I did not know what I was doing for the most part, so I don't know if that was due to inexperience or because there was an issue with the pattern. I never went back to this pattern and tried anymore. Also, I can tell that I have used some kind of interfacing in this this neckband that's perhaps not a knit interfacing, which was another rookie mistake. So I'm wearing it today to just remind myself of the shirt. It actually is really comfortable, so I don't think I'm going to be getting rid of it, but I just thought I would share that pattern with you guys. So this is stash update number 4. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's totally fine. I'll give you a little recap here. At the beginning of January, I took a hard look at my stash here in the Who's Your Handmade sewing room, and I got a little dose of reality as to how much fabric, how many patterns are actually here in my sewing room. So I told myself that I really wanted to focus in on my stash this year. I really wanted to start attacking the beautiful fabric that's already here in my sewing room. And so I took on a challenge of my hubbies from January 14th to April 14th to not have any fabric or any pattern buying going on in the sewing room. I was not to buy any fabric or any patterns for 3 months. Hubby gave me that challenge with a little prize to dangle in front of me, and I did meet his challenge. I won. So on April 14th, I won his challenge, and then from April 14th to May 14th, I have been on a buying month. So I let myself have 1 month of, I could buy fabric, I could buy patterns, and go back out there into the world again and do a little bit of fabric buying. So this video is going to be very much focused on that buying month, my thoughts from that buying month, the effects of the buying month on my stash, and maybe some new strategies that I want to put in place in the future for future buying months. I really had a great experience with my no buying session and then a buying session, so I'm going to continue doing that. That is the theme of the year. I'm going to continue with 3 months of no buying, no fabric, no patterns, and then 1 month of buying fabric or patterns that I've had my eye on, or maybe I need for a project that I have in mind. That's what I will take care of in that month-long period. So let's talk about what went on during my buying month. So first of all, let's talk about my thought processes. I thought this might be interesting to you. Let me start out though by telling you that there is is no right or wrong way of having a stash or doing the hobby of sewing at all. It is completely personal. I am not sitting here telling you just because I'm trying to sew up my stash that that's something you need to do as well. If you love your large stash and you want to keep contributing to it, you do you, okay? I am not here to judge anyone, and I would ask for the same thing of you when I start giving numbers, and I do give cold hard numbers in here. It's not to brag, it's not to run anyone down or compare, it's just the truth. I'm just sharing the truth with you. I'm using y'all for a little bit of accountability to myself. So bottom line is, no right or wrong way of doing this hobby, and especially no right or wrong way of having a stash. I'm not saying it's right and I'm not saying it's wrong. So when I give you the totals for this month, I was a little shocked. Let me just go ahead and say it. I was a little shocked as to how much that I added back into my stash. And for myself, I'm going to give you my thoughts for myself, like how it's affected me, what I think from the results of this buying month. So that is what this video is going to be about. So let's talk about how I felt when I was going into those stores again after 3 months of not stepping foot in a Hobby Lobby or a Joann's or looking at a fabric website. The feelings were real, you guys. I had a lot of anxiety, honestly. Walking into Hobby Lobby was the first place that I went. They had 40% off their fabric. I felt overwhelmed and I felt anxious because I didn't want to ruin the great progress that I had made in my stash already. I do have a very large stash, so I'm chipping away at it little by little so it doesn't look like it's a huge effect on my stash, but in my mind, it really was great progress. So I didn't want to ruin that progress. So I was very critical at the beginning of sales. I was very critical of clearance items. The thoughts that were running through my head were like, Tiffany, do you really need that? Or actually, I have something prettier in my stash that would work just as well for that project that popped to mind. And also I was trying to stay really strict with what projects I had immediately coming up. I was going to buy the fabric and then sew it, bring it home, wash it, cut it, sew it. That was what I was trying to really focus in on there at the beginning. So at the beginning, I was buying just what I needed, but as the month progressed, as I got more comfortable going into Joann's and Hobby Lobby, I could see some old behaviors starting to creep up. Now, I never did really go crazy on the clearance aisle, and I really was still pretty critical about sales, thinking, you know, that's not a very good deal, or, you know, that kind of thing. But my old thought process of, oh, I will get this and I will get it now and then make something beautiful with it down the road. A few times that has popped up. So let me just give you a few of my reasons, my thoughts where I went astray. So I was trying to think throughout the month of where I started to get those feelings, those regular behaviors of mine started to creep back in. The first one is a big one, and I started buying for future projects. So I would see a fabric, not have an immediate thought in mind as to what project it was going to go towards, or have an immediate plan to bring it home, wash it, cut it, sew it. Those future plans started creeping in. The next one was kind of out of my control, but from April 14th to May 14th ended up being a very busy time for my family. My daughter and I came down with a sickness. We had strep throat for several weeks trying to get rid of it. I went away to California for a week. So it ended up being a very busy time in my life, and I didn't get a ton of sewing done. Not as much sewing as I thought I was going to, and definitely not as much sewing that could keep up with the buying. So that is the crux of the problem. My sewing was not keeping up with my buying. That's really been the biggest cause of my stash building overall. I simply cannot sew it fast enough to keep it rotating, keep the rotating door going of fabric through my sewing. The third reason is a pretty large fabric haul from California. I happened upon a really neat store in California. It's called M&L Fabrics in Anaheim. It was a it was overwhelming. I talked about it actually on this Friday Sews. I will link it up above. I gave pictures and showed you what fabric that I picked up. But that fabric store, I was in California. I couldn't leave without getting some fabric. So all of the fabric that I purchased from that store in Anaheim, I got at least 2 to 3 yards of, and it's all going into my stash. I didn't have an immediate plan for any of that. I just wanted to get some things from California. So the fabric haul kind of hurt me on my numbers. And then this last reason is kind of a product of what I'm doing here, this challenge. 3 months of no buying and then a month of buying. And that is panic buying. That's what I'm labeling it. I was feeling urgency. I was feeling the panic set in of my no buying months are coming. My buying month is running out. So I need to go to Joann's one last time and see if I need to get any last minute items, or I need to run to Hobby Lobby one more time and just see if I need to pick up anything. And again, that kind of thought process was going for future projects, not, oh, I need to sew this weekend. That was thinking for future projects. So panic buying was definitely something that led me astray. What have I learned from this month of buying? So this buying month had its ups, it had its downs, started strong. And then I kind of had some issues there at the end of the month with my buying. So what kind of tips for success have I taken from this month that I will try to use in the future? You guys, as I said, there's no right and wrong answers here. I'm not wrong for panic buying. It's just how I felt. It's what I was going through in that time. I'm not going to beat myself up for fabric bought in that time. I'm just going to learn from it, right? We learn from our experiences and we move on. So the tips for success that I would have, and I'm going to share them with you just in case you would need this in the future. The first one is such a huge one, and I've mentioned it before already. Buy it, wash it, cut it, sew it. That's going to be like my new mantra. So that is just an excellent strategy for not accumulating fabrics that you're just not going to have time to get to. And if your month is busier or you don't have as much time as you thought you would have, that's okay as well. But at least you haven't bought these fabrics for immediate buys and then more fabric that you have piled into your room that you're not going to have time for the future. Using that strategy of only buying for immediate projects really does help cut down on how much you are adding to your cart, bringing home, and stacking up on your shelves in your sewing room. The next one was a neat strategy that I didn't even realize I was doing, but when you have a husband and a little girl that sometimes goes shopping with you, sometimes nature gives you this instead of you actually doing it to yourself. And I'm talking about limiting your time in the store. If you give yourself a time limit, if you intentionally set a half-hour alarm and say, you know what, I have a half hour to look around the store, make my choices, and then get out. Sometimes that can be very beneficial in helping you make up your mind. I only have time to look at this fabric section and then make my selections, get it cut, check out, and out of the store in a half hour or an hour or however long you want to set for yourself. Sometimes having that time crunch is really beneficial to keeping you from overbuying. And this last one is a huge reality check. It's a wake-up call. I would highly suggest every one of us do this. Whether you're really tracking your buys or not, this is just a really great way to keep yourself accountable. For the most part, all of us find this very, very beneficial. And that is writing down what you buy. When you buy it, just get yourself a list. Let me show you what mine looks like. Just have a piece of paper right here, and I've kept a tally as I've gone shopping, brought some into my sewing room. Write down your yardage. That's what I kept track of. I kept track of the yardage. Write it down and just watch yourself. Watch how much you're actually bringing into the sewing room. And I would go a step further and keep a running total. Don't just start writing down 2, 3, 5, 6, and then at the end of the month, total it up. That's what I did. And I was shocked at how much I actually had brought into my sewing room. I think you will be shocked as well how quickly those totals add up, how they add up so quickly. Just like when you're shopping at Walmart or Target or anywhere for groceries, you go in for a few items and you're suddenly spending $150. How did that happen? Well, the same process happens when you're buying fabric and you're accumulating things. If you keep a running total, I think it will really give you a new light into what you're actually accumulating in your sewing. So those are my tips for success. I'm keeping them for myself. I'm writing these down. I'm going to keep them in front of me for my next buying month, and I think they're really going to be super beneficial to you. I have one new strategy as well that I would like to implement in my next buying month, which is going to be 3 months away. It's far down the road yet, but in my next buying month, I would like to focus in on using this strategy, and that is to only buy as much fabric, as much yardage as I've been able to sew in my most prolific month. So if the most yards I've sewn in any month thus far has been 16 yards, then when I go to the store and buy fabric and for projects or whatever, I can only get up to 16 yards of fabric. I think that might give me like a cap. It might give me a goal to meet. I do pretty good with challenges. That's kind of a strategy that works for me. So if I go in with a thought, a plan, a goal all ready for that buying month, I think that might really help me. So I'm also going to put in that strategy. Okay, let's get down to the numbers. So how much did I add to my stash during this month of buying? Let's look at the actual numbers. I like to call these stash impacts because this buying has impacted my stash. Some of these things I have used in April, so I went ahead and marked them off. They're not going into the stash. They're not counting. These were the stash impacts. Added yardage during my buying month was 38 yards. 38 might be a high number to you. It might be a low number to you. I'm not here to debate the number 38, but for my feelings, for myself, I was shocked at that number. I thought that was really high. I could not, again, you need to keep a running tally of what you're writing down, because I could not believe that my total had got there that quickly. And that was even using a lot of the yardage that I had picked up this month. So 38 yards is what I have added back into my stash. And then as far as patterns go, I wasn't as worried about patterns because, quite frankly, they don't take up the room that fabric does. Fabric is all around me. It's overwhelming me. It's taking over my sewing room. So I definitely feel the fabric more than I feel the patterns. But again, I have so many patterns that I don't want to just keep accumulating more and more and not give the ones that I have a try. So for patterns, I bought this month 21. I bought 21 patterns. 15 of those were Big 4 and 6 of those were indie. So I've done a pattern haul. I will link it up above and down below. I did a video on all the patterns that I've accumulated during my buying month. I don't regret any of the patterns that I bought this month. I love getting new patterns, new fresh ideas, so I am really okay with that 21 number. A few more numbers that I want to talk about are my yearly progress. So even though I was buying in April, from April 14th to May 14th, I was still sewing during that time. So let's see what impacts that sewing had on my stash. So at the very beginning of the year, in January, I started out with 680 and a quarter yards. That was my stash. That's what's folded up onto bolts. That is my garment sewing fabric. Used to date, so yardage used from January until now is 61 and a quarter yards. 61 yards is a lot of fabric, and for the most part, it's coming out of my stash. There were a few that I bought this last month that I've used and used in that total, but for the most part, all of that was coming out of my stash. So I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back for that large number, and I'm gonna count that one as a win. So I added 38 yards. So what's my total now? What yardage is in the sewing room right now? The total yards in my sewing room is 657 yards. So I know, as I've said before, I know that's a lot of fabric. It's a very large number, and I am chipping away little by little with my projects, but a little progress goes a long way, and I have confidence in myself that this year is going to make a big impact on my stash. So that is my stash update number 4. That's what's been happening with the stash in the last month of buying, the impacts on my stash, and then some thoughts that I had from the month. So let me know what you think down below. Like I said, are you doing a stash challenge? I would love to hear your updates and your experiences down below. Above all, though, let's stay positive. You guys usually are so very kind and so very positive. Like I said, there is no right or wrong way of doing this. I just wanted to share this experience with you guys, and I really do appreciate all your encouraging words, cheering me on, and being in my corner and being my friend. It means so very much to me. Give this video a thumbs up and comment down below. I will see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.